So these 3 pots of mulberry cuttings were all taken at the same time, and they've all started to develop leaves, but this one on the end here is well and truly developed, and it's now ready to pot up. And one of the reasons I know, apart from the flush of growth on top, is at the bottom of the pot, in different places I'm starting to see roots emerge from the bottom. So today I'm going to pot this guy up. To do that, I've got 3 pots, 1 for each of my cuttings. I've made a hole in the bottom, or dibbled a hole in each of the pots, and none of the holes go all the way to the base, but my aim is, when I remove these plants, I'm going to plant them at approximately the same depth. So I'm going to separate them out. I'm going to give you some tips on how to successfully pot up these cuttings into these pots as individual plants. So I've got my cuttings here. All I'm going to do to start with is just tip the pot up. And I'm going to give it a gentle tap on top and a squeeze around the edges in the hope that my potting mix will all come out in one large chunk. Now these haven't been in for a long time, and the potting mix, and the roots won't be up right against the edge of the pot, so I may lose some potting mix when I do that. So as I pull it out, I can see that I've got roots established on the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is put this seed plant on there. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to try and bust these apart gently. So I'm going to break the root ball apart. I'm going to try and get 1 plant at a time. Now the aim when I plant these up is to keep as much soil on the root ball as possible. So the roots of the plant have a whole pile of little tiny root hairs, and when they're in direct contact with the soil, that's when it's able to take up water. So the less disturbance that I can make on the base of the roots, the more likely these plants are to survive. So in this pot here, I've got a nice little pot set up. Let's move these back a little bit. I'm going to make a hole about the same size as the root ball of my plant. Gently pop it in on top, and then I'll add some of this extra soil in and around my plant. I'll gently push it down. Now I don't want to push too firmly. If I push too firmly, I'm going to break some of the roots away from that plant. But it's really important that all of my roots are in contact with soil. So we're planted to approximately the same depth in our pot. So what I'm going to do is I'll water this plant, and water it gently, and I'll get the potting mix around the base of it to settle. So that's how you pot it up. So you want it about the same height, keep as much soil on the root ball as possible, and if you want to give them a really healthy start, your best bet would be to give them some liquid fertilizer or some sea salt or something similar, and that will help with root development. This guy here, I'm going to set this one out separately. He's only got 1 small root, so what's happened is the cuttings used all of the energy, or used the energy in the stem to produce the leaves. Once it's produced leaves, it starts to produce energy and send it down the stem, and that energy has caused bulges on the bottom where this node is, and then we've got root development from the bottom. I'm going to plant this one up as well. I just need to be really careful. If you've got some just with a really small amount of roots, you just need to be careful that when you put it in, you don't push too hard around the plant, because you don't want to break those off. So you want to gently push the soil in around to ensure that your plant is stable, that you're going to get moisture around the base of this cutting, and we'll add a little bit of water. But as you can see, this one here, probably not quite ready. Good chance it will survive. These 2 here, you can see the amount of growth on top, well and truly established. These ones are likely to take. So this pot here, I'm going to leave these ones a few more weeks. We'll give them plenty of sunshine, give them a little bit of liquid fertilizer just to bring them on a little bit, but we're going to wait a little bit longer before we pot those 2 up. So there's some tips on potting up your cuttings. If you've got multiple cuttings in one pot, like grapes or mulberries, there's some tips for you.